y'all, it's Sarah. As you can see, I'm still sitting here surrounded by cute little ornament miniatures. I wanted to throw some more ideas out at you and probably have at least a half a dozen of these little ideas. Whether you want to do them or not, I'm just going to go ahead and put them out here while I'm sitting here playing with all my little fun goodies. So, most of these I've already shown, but I wanted to show a couple details on one that I went back and added really quick. So I wanted to show a few steps on some more details that you can not only add to the ones that I previously did, but to any that are coming up. So one of the ones I wanted to show is this little fireplace. If you notice, this one's a little different than my first one. It's got some candles here instead. I wanted to show really quick how I did those candles, and to just give you the idea, you could probably use just about anything, but I happen to have a lot of the little dauber sticks. If I had a dauber these are the Dollar Tree ones, these guys. If I have one that, you know, at some point this starts to break down, it tears up, I go ahead and rip that off, but I keep all of the little sticks in my little bin that I keep all my little Jenga blocks and all that in. So I just cut those down, and to do that, I used this little cool gadget here that looks like an angry lizard or something. And was able to cut right into these. And I'm trying to do this. I'm afraid I'm going to hit something because they will go flying, but without hitting straight into it and popping it entirely off. Oops, I've gotten it wedged in there. You can see that it just slices right into that, and I will be sure to link this little gadget, but I cut off several of these out of one in a couple different sizes so that I'd have a couple little pillar candles. And to put the wick on it, I knew that I would not be able to see really thin thread in order to do it, but I have this from Dollar Tree, and this thread was really easy for me to nip a little piece off of because it's slightly thicker than normal thread. But use whatever you've got. That's what I'm actually doing, is using things that I have. So I wanted to throw that idea out there because you will see those probably pop up again because I made a couple sets for myself. So let's get started on the ones that I want to hit next. So I'm going to slide these guys all out of the way, and we'll get started. Okay, so now I've got me a little working room. I can sit and start playing with some things. So I noticed that I had a couple of squares. So I decided I wanted to go ahead and use these, and I think these are about 2 by 2. And I have these little ones that I had cut out to make my little, I cut out of a larger piece to make my little framed art pieces like this, but I'm going to go ahead and use these, and I can always cut more. So these are actually at 1 3/4 by 2. So we are going to just assemble these into a little box, and I'm going to pull this guy out because we're going to I'm making sure that both sides have a little color. I don't want a bunch of white showing everywhere. So we're going to make a Christmas tree box, or a boxed Christmas tree, however you want to call that. So I'm just going to go ahead and start gluing these together. I'm being very cautious hitting that hot glue against that foam because it can totally melt your foam on you. So I'm trying to determine which way I want my graining. I'm pretty sure that, oops, I glued the wrong one. I'm pretty sure I want my graining to go side to side. You could do that either which way. I'm just being weird about it. So I'm popping one of the slightly shorter side, that 1 3/4, up against this 2 by 2 side. I'm trying not to get too lost in the numbers and measurements here because I want you guys to be able to use scraps if you have them in whatever size they happen to be in. So you can kind of see here, we're making just a little box. And I'm going to try to do this without burning myself. Hopefully I've got that pretty straight. So you can kind of see we just have a little wooden box. I'm going to pop a bottom on my little wooden box. And this is one of the 2x2 little squares. And you know, honestly, it looks like it could take a 2 by 2 1/4. I did not add in that little bit of extra. So I'm just going to use this other little scrap I had over there and mark it and trim it off. Easy enough. And you may have to do that because some of your foam core is not always as thick as other pieces. If you have not noticed that, I have found that to be a case. Different batches can have a little bit different thickness, not by much, but even that little bit when working at this scale can kind of factor in. So that works out just fine. And I'm going to pop this on the bottom and we're going to finish this little fella out. I figured why not? I did it for my big tree. Why not do it for a little tiny one? So I have a little tree box that this little tree is going to fit in there. Very cute. So a couple things. You can come in, if you really want to go this far into the details, you can come in and make you some small slivers. Let's see. I'm going to get this to an even size so that I can try to make myself a couple of little slivers at about the 1/4 inch mark. You could do this part with popsicle sticks too if you wanted to, but the whole point of this craft for me, really honest to goodness, is to try to do something with all these little scrap pieces. And I think I'm only going to do this to one side of my little tree box. I don't want it to end up getting super bulky. And, you know, we're adding a little bit of chunk there with these little pieces. So I think I'm just going to do it to kind of whatever I deem the forward-facing side. So I'm assuming that's going to be this one for me. And I'm just going to come and measure these out. Oops, sorry, out of screen, guys. So I just need to make sure that I go ahead and paint these edges just with my Waverly Antique, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so you can kind of see what I did here, and I wanted to show you this really quick because it is so simple. I went ahead and glued this on here even though it's too long, and this is such a small little piece now that I'm just taking my little razor blade and just popping it off just like that. So I'm going to go in and do the same thing for these little edge ones. Size them up to there. These I actually have to cut. So I'm just going to line them up right there. Slide my blade, and I'm sorry if I'm scaring you guys holding the blade like this. And I can just pop that right in its place. So we'll throw a little glue there. Pop that little guy right there. And you can do it to every single side if you really want to. I may go back and do that if it starts to bother me. But I think just having the front side of it with this little bit of bulk that it adds is probably enough. But we'll see. So if you notice, I only painted one side of these. I thought it would be easier to get the outer edge of those once it was glued in place. Since they were so thin, I thought it would be a little easier to paint those outer portions in place. And you know, the more I look at it, I still may end up making some for the edges just because I'm me. So here we have our cute little tree box. You can go in, you can do the little pieces. I can show you one. The little pieces on the diagonal like this, which I may have to do, seeing how cute that is. But a few other things. The same tip with using the ribbon that I did previously. I've got some ribbon here that I certainly could cut a little portion of this off, and I'm going to cut, this is about, what, a 2-inch ribbon. I'm going to cut maybe 3 inches of this ribbon off. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to kind of maneuver this one around just to kind of make it have, like it's got some kind of blanket-like thickness and quality. It is a pretty sheer seersucker ribbon. But I'm going to come in and tuck it around this edge, just like this. Pop my little tree in there, just like that. Anything else you might want to add? Super cute, super simple. Pop your hanger right there at the top of your little tree. So I'm going to go ahead and finish doing my little paint job and construction, and I'll show you guys what I mean. Okay, so here's my finished little 3-inch tree box in its little throw blanket. I've got the little center section I did as slivers, and I literally did that as slivers, and I'm going to show you really quickly just how I did that, because I know some of you guys still question about cutting and getting those straight edges. So you can see I barely have that over. I've got my ruler in place, and I'm going to get it here where my little tacky putty is a big part of being able to do this so precisely. So I'm going to line up somewhere just to get it pretty straight. I'm going to start up here. I don't want to start right there because it'll crush this little edge. I want to get my pressure all the way going. And you can see this tiny little sliver. I went ahead and painted that side and that side. And I popped it down in there, and it went in there so easy because at this stage, it's really flexible. So I wanted to show you how I got at that scale in that little center portion here. And you know what? I had just this little nub of a piece left over from doing all this. I'm going to come in, make sure that I've got some paint on those edges. And this really is just a little nub. I'm going to come in on mine, pop a little glue right on the side there. And I'll pop this little nub right in place like it's a little handle. Just because I saw it sitting there and I had it, and instead of tossing that little scrap, there it is as a little handle on the side of my little box. And so there's one more little item. The next one I want to show you is one that I kind of want to do. Now, at Halloween, everybody saw these, everybody had these, and I saw some really cute things done. Halloween style for these. I have these. I have got some of the Dollar Tree fake snow. I've got glitter, all of those kind of things. I'm not pulling those out at the very moment because I know they can make such a mess. But I am going to be using some of these little cuties. These are all in the Dollar Tree Crafters Square. Easy for you to say. Crafter Square section. And I'm sure anybody that plays with miniatures on their own, they probably love these little deals. I'm going to see what all I can come up with on these. If I can get them out without breaking them. And they're actually glass. So, I'm going to try to come up with something kind of cute for that. I'm thinking maybe a little shelf unit, maybe a little hutch of some kind, maybe a little china cabinet. I know hutches are back as a thing again. I'm seeing a lot of those, especially with all the redone decor these days. So I've seen a lot of cute hutches. I'm thinking maybe I can do something along that line here, or at least a shelf unit and then maybe a hutch separately. So I'm just picking through, seeing if I've got any pieces that kind of equate to a similar size. Those two are exactly the same size, so I can work from there. And that's kind of how my brain goes, is I just look at the sizes and think about what I could make from something that size. So I'm thinking maybe something along this line. Whoop, it's trying to take off from me. So that's the idea that I'm going to play with. I'm going to go ahead and take this little piece and cut out some of the same size. And I'll tell you, this is a 1 inch by, let me grab my pencil and go ahead and mark this. And I'll tell you, just for scale reference, if you're going to use these little bottles that I'm going to be using. So these are like 1 inch by 3 1/8 or 3 1/4, somewhere around there. So I'm going to cut a couple shelves down to this little size, and we're going to roll with it from there. Guys, I had no plan on this. This is just creative time for me. This is kind of like, this is how I find my zen, is sitting and doing crafts kind of like this. So you guys are like watching me express my creativity right as I go. I hope you don't mind that part. So I'm just going to pop in here and start trimming these down. Okay, so my creative side decided to take over while I was sitting here cutting my pieces. I did go ahead and, to make it easy on myself, I trimmed them all down to straight up 3 inches, just because it was easy and my ruler is 3 inches wide. So I've got these two pieces, and I've got this piece that is 3 inches by about 3 1/2. You could make that really any size you want to. So my brain kind of went a different direction. And you guys are we're gonna see if this is a craft win or fail altogether. So this is some of the Dollar Tree little skewer sticks. I'm not going to paint this right now. I'm actually going to try to use a marker after this to color it, because I felt like if I painted it, going through like this was probably going to mess up the paint job anyway. So I want to try to line both of these up. I want to go through both of them at the same time. When you go through this, it's going to try to blow out that bottom section. And you'll see what I mean about blowing it out. So watch out for that. But when you're going through, I'm going to try to hold these and do them at the same time. You want to spin this, trying to push that paper down into the hole. Most of it's going to stay in this hole once we get through. Because I'm going to leave these little sticks in. Oh goodness, I may not even want to put the back on it, so I'm scratching that idea, but I am going to grab a couple more of these little sticks. I can probably get away with, let's just find out. That's about a good length. I want to let's see. That should work, whatever that space is. So let me sit it here and okay, so I'm just gonna mark kind of a little spot for myself where to cut this stick off at, and know that I'm keeping them all the same length. So probably about 3 1/2. Somewhere right there. So I should be able to get 2 of these little poles out of each one. So that's very handy. You can cut these with scissors, but I do happen to have this my little angry dinosaur thing right beside me. Ooh, that went flying. I'm going to continue to do the same thing. I'm going to try to poke through this side. And I'm going to spin that going all the way in so that it doesn't blow my paper too far out. There we go. I want to have those two pretty even. I'm going to grab one more of these little Dollar Tree skewer sticks and do the same thing with both of these corners. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. and we'll see what the results look like. Okie dokie, this is where I stand, and I'm glad I did that off camera because the rest of my little sticky ends went a-flying. So I'm going to try to separate these guys now that I've gotten them skewed on the skewers. Here we go. Come on, slide apart, guys. And I don't want to wiggle them around too much or it'll kind of overdo the little holes that I have placed in them. And I like that they're sticking. I think maybe my sticks are cut a little uneven, so I got to go in and correct that. Let's see where we need to space this fella. Okay, so you can kind of see where I'm going with this little cutie. To make sure that my shelves are going to accommodate a thing or two. I've got some of these cute little tiny miniature trees from Dollar Tree. I can always come in and make my little custom sign to sit up there. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and get these evened out. Because like I said, I can see that I did not cut my sticks even. I probably should have measured it all out ahead of time and did that, but this was really honest and truly, you guys are kind of seeing how my brain works here. So okay, that's better. So I'm going to go ahead and paint these little sticks out so that they're black and they look more like the farmhouse shelving, the pipe iron fitted wall shelving, and then we're going to decorate up our tiny little shelves. So I'm going to get started on getting this painted and dry. So I'm back with some little pieces in tow here. I've got my shelf unit is finally dry. I'm going to try to slide that a little bit. I feel like my shelves are a little lopsided here. So I think that's pretty good. This thing is actually relatively stable, I think. So I've got this Dollar Tree Faux Snow, which is very iridescent and sparkly and pretty. I am going to fill one of these little glass, little vial, bottle, jar, I'm not sure what they label them as. Containers. It just says containers on the package. I'm trying to do this here to the side without absolutely creating a snowy, beautiful mess everywhere. I'm going to try to see if I can just kind of dip this little guy in there and get just a little bit of this. If I can, maybe. So I've got a little bit in there. I'm going to try to scoop a little bit more out. Woo, so that was a chore and a half. That stuff is very, very staticky. It wanted to keep sticking to me. But I finally got, I think, enough in my little bottle to make me happy. I've got like a little piece of greenery wire that I'm sitting here tinkering with, trying to get into a circle shape to decide whether or not I want to hang this on my little shelf unit here. Maybe. It's a could be. I'm thinking maybe some greenery, but just not that. So, I've got this little frame already done, but I feel like it's a little large. Maybe a candle. I don't know. The candle seems a little large. So, it looks like I'm going to have to make like a little frame piece that's a little smaller. So, I'm going to grab this little piece here, which is, really not very big at all. And maybe this little piece. And I'm going to get some little pieces of black cardstock and go ahead and adhere those down. Okay, so I've cut out just a wee little itty bitty tiny pieces of black cardstock just to stick down on these. And I've already stuck one in place. I'm going to go ahead and stick the other one in place. You could use any color. I'm just using black because I happen to have a white gel pen handy, and I felt like it showed up really nicely and it popped against what I'm already doing. So I'm just going to come in, make a little tiny snowflake. And I'm going to see if I can slide this over a little. I feel like it's a little off center. So I think for this one, instead of a little snowflake, I'm going to make just a little Christmas tree. I think that works. So now I just have to decide where they're going to go. I think I'm going to put this one on my middle shelf. I didn't even bother painting that little side of it because that's the part I'm going to be sticking glue on. I'm just going to run my glue across there. And give it a second to not be as hot and smushy, so maybe it doesn't goo everywhere on me. I need to move my shelves up just a little. There we go. And I'm going to put this little itty bitty teeny tiny one up at the top. You could put anything you wanted to on these, to be honest. So there's a little guy there. I've got another one of these little Dollar Tree bottle brush style trees. And I'm going to pop him right there on that top shelf. And there we go. I have another cute little farmhouse style ornament. All I got to do is attach a hanger to the back, and this one should be finished. So I've got a few other ideas, guys, but I got to pull some more pieces together. So I think I'm going to have to call an end to this particular video. But I did want to tell you, I had some ideas for those of you that are elf families and do the elf on the shelf kind of guy. I had a few ideas for those. So keep an eye out for that if your family is doing the little elf on the shelf. I had a few ideas to play with him. I don't have one anymore. Mine has long since gone back to the North Pole. But I do have some ideas for it. I'm actually going to steal my neighbor's elf. He's going to come hang out with me tomorrow and let me fit his bottom to some things. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my hanger on here. I'm going to call this one good. I need to glue down my little glass bottle here. And that's it for this one. And I will be getting a few more of these little cutie patooties. For those of you that said this would be really good for doll houses, I absolutely see where it could be fun for a dollhouse. Now, if you're going to be making a dollhouse that a child's going to be playing with a whole lot, keep in mind that the foam core starts to peel really easy if you have not played with this stuff. Honestly, it literally is just 2 layers of paper glued to foam. So it's not going to hold up to like wear and tear for a kid. But if you're doing one that's just for display, absolutely, this is totally cute method to try that with. And they're super lightweight. So for those that are interested in that, I did want to give you the heads up that if it's going to be a child one that's going to get played with, unless it's the pieces that aren't going to get moved around a lot or manipulated, you know, like wall cabinets and things like that, that are not going to actually be moved and manipulated. Even for a kid, I think it would probably be fun. But here's my final piece. I might throw maybe a little greenery there on my second shelf, just for a little pop of color there. A little bit. Who knows? But this is where I stand. I hope this gave you some fun ideas, or at least got your imagination ticking to do a few of your own. I think these guys are pretty stinking cute, and I hope you do too. And that's all. I will talk to you guys soon.